Fab4 Expression presents the Unapologetically Reborn podcast hosted by Cody Fullin and Alicia Lynch. This podcast is meant to support awareness and reflection, but it is not a substitute for professional mental health care. If you need support, please reach out to a licensed professional or a trusted resource. A downloadable workbook can be found by visiting our website www.unapologeticallyreborn.com.
Welcome to Unapologetically Reborn. I'm Cody.
I'm Alicia. All right, so we're back on episode 2 of how we become addicted to someone from our series of love lies in the nervous system. Today we're going to look into attachment theory and how attachment wounds can play into this bigger than you might think. Today's episode isn't why am I addicted to them? The question is, what wound makes this connection feel necessary for survival? Matter of fact, since we're discussing questions, a question most people never ask is, what did losing them make me feel about myself? This question often reveals everything, because the deepest pain usually isn't they left. It's I wasn't chosen. I wasn't enough. I wasn't worth staying. I wasn't lovable. The breakup activated a belief that existed long before the relationship. In many situations anyways, not in all. Humans create stories about who they are. For example, I'll give you a couple. I'm the helper. I'm the forgotten one. I'm the strong one. I'm the unwanted one. Sometimes a relationship becomes tied to this identity. When the relationship ends, the story is threatened. The distress isn't just, I lost them. It's who am I now? Sometimes a relationship becomes fused with survival. Instead of, I love this person, it can become, I need this person to be okay. The relationship gets linked to things like worth, safety, identity, belonging. When the relationship ends, it can feel as though part of you has disappeared. We sometimes chase people who mirror our core beliefs. This is also something that could be intertwined into this. As I stated in the last episode, everyone here is different, so this may not apply to you. If someone secretly believes I'm not important, I'm too much, I'm not lovable, I have to earn love, they may unconsciously gravitate towards relationships that reinforce those beliefs. Not because they enjoy this pain, but because the relationship feels familiar, and familiarity often masquerades as truth. So for people raised in chaos, calm can feel unfamiliar. Consistency can feel strange. Predictability can feel boring. Not because anyone enjoys suffering, but because the nervous system was built inside unpredictability. So those people that grew up in chaos, their body learned chaos equaled attention. Chaos equaled connection. Chaos equals love. So when healthy love arrives, it doesn't produce the same emotional intensity. The person mistakes an intensity for compatibility. The brain hates unfinished stories. So the concept of unfinished business, the brain loves completion. It hates unresolved questions. And this is why people obsess over people who ghosted them, people who never explained, people who were consistent, people who left suddenly. The brain keeps searching for the missing answer. Not because the relationship was amazing, because it was incomplete. Sometimes the obsession isn't love. It's the mind trying to solve a puzzle. Most people think that they're addicted to a person, but they're often addicted to what that person represents. So imagine a woman who grows up with an emotionally unavailable father. She doesn't consciously walk around saying, I'm looking for an unavailable man, but she may spend decades being drawn to people she has to earn. Why? Because this person isn't just a person. They're a symbol. A symbol of being chosen, finally being enough, finally being seen, finally winning love. The relationship becomes bigger than the relationship. Now, losing them isn't just losing a boyfriend, it's losing the possibility of finally resolving a wound. This comes from a psychoanalytic theory, the basic idea. So, humans often unconsciously recreate old emotional situations hoping for different outcomes. For example, a child who never felt chosen by a parent may later become drawn to emotionally unavailable partners, not because they enjoy pain, because some unconscious part of them is trying to solve an old problem.
So pretty much like when women go to men who might, because they have daddy issues, they'll go to the same bullshit
It's very possible.
because they want to fix the person.
Yeah, not consciously. It's usually a subconscious
No,
thing.
that's
But
what I meant.
yeah, that's actually very, very familiar. That's unfortunately, it's highly likely. Yes, that occurs a lot.
Okay.
Um,
I was just making that.
no, it's true.
What's the word I'm looking for?
It's true.
My thought.
You were looking at an analogy, but it's
I don't know.
unfortunately it's often the case. The relationship for a child who never felt chosen by a parent, it can later become, maybe this time I'll finally be chosen. The drug isn't the person. It's one of the most important concepts. People think I'm addicted to this person, but often they're addicted to the feeling that was chosen, feeling like, wanted, feeling validated, feeling needed, feeling hopeful. So that person can become the delivery system. The emotional experience can become the drug. Many people aren't chasing the person, they're chasing the resolution. If childhood felt like emotional neglect, unpredictability, abandonment, addiction, inconsistent affection, the nervous system could interpret these these feelings as familiar. Familiar often feels safer than healthy. So even when it's a painful experience, a trauma bond, the brain begins associating relief with love. And this is why leaving can feel physically painful. Not because the relationship was healthy, but because the nervous system became dependent on the cycle. So basically, pain, relief, pain, relief. Sometimes we're not attached to who they are. We're attached to who they could become. So like fantasy, which we've discussed in past episodes, who we hope they'd be, what we imagined to be like together, what finally being loved by them would mean.
So is that like when women try to change men who are, say, the guy is the asshole, but he had a screwed up childhood, they're trying to change him not to be a fucking dick?
Several cases, yeah.
That's what I mean.
Yeah, and that goes both ways. Males, females, both. So you're grieving a future that never existed. So when people talk about being addicted to a person, they're often addicted to hope. The hope that this time they'll stay. The hope that they'll choose me. This time I'll matter. I'll be enough. And hope, let's be honest, hope can be intoxicating. Because every small positive interaction feels like evidence that the wound is finally about to heal. Someone loves me. I'm good enough. Then the reward disappears, and then the cycle begins again. The grief beneath the obsession. So a lot of people think that if I stop thinking about them, I'll be okay. But underneath the obsession is often grief. Grief for the childhood that they didn't get, the parent that they needed, the protection that they deserved, the love that they waited for. Sometimes the person becomes a container holding decades of unresolved pain. When the relationship ends, all of it spills out at one time. So sometimes we're not attached to who they are, we're attached to who they could become, who we'd hope they'd be. And Sometimes people spend 6 months with a person, 10 years grieving for them. How? Because the attachment wasn't built on reality, it was built on possibility. The brain fills in that missing information. Remember, the brain doesn't like things that it doesn't know. It tries to solve the puzzle, it tries to fill in the spaces. So we create imagined futures, imagine conversations, imagine healing, imagine security. The fantasy becomes more emotionally powerful than the actual person. The question isn't always, what subconscious loss am I reliving? Sometimes it's, why does this particular loss feel so much bigger than the relationship itself? This is where a deeper exploration becomes useful. So if the pain seems wildly disproportionate to the length of the relationship, how healthy it was, how they treated you, then it's worth asking whether the loss is touching something older. Many therapists describe this as the current loss may be real, but it can also awaken earlier losses that were never fully processed. So the breakup, the rejection, the ghosting, or the abandonment isn't necessarily the original wound. It just might be the event that reopened it. When something painful happens today, we aren't always reacting only to today. Present event can activate emotional memories from years ago. So a breakup at age 40 may unconsciously awaken rejection at 8, invisibility at 10, abandonment at 12. The body experiences all of this simultaneously. That's why reactions sometimes feel larger than the event itself. This is known as emotional time travel. An attachment injury occurs when someone we depend on emotionally creates a deep rupture. So examples: betrayal, abandonment, chronic inconsistency, emotional neglect. The brain doesn't simply process this as disappointment. It processes it as a threat to connection itself. This is why people can obsess over understanding what happened. So when the relationship ends, we're not just grieving the reality. Some questions to ask yourself could include, we're grieving every future that we've invented. So what feeling did this person give me that I struggle with myself? Was I attached to this? Was I attached to who they were or who I hoped they'd become? What does losing them force me to feel? Does this relationship feel familiar to my childhood? Am I seeking love or relief? What part of me believes I need this person to be okay? Sometimes the hardest truth isn't that we're addicted to the person. It's that we're addicted to the hope that the person will finally heal a wound that they've never created. And healing begins the moment that we stop asking them to rescue us from pain that only we can face. So let's take a quiz. I want you to count how many times that you answer yes to the following questions, okay? Write it down if you need to. Go ahead, grab a pen. The phone check. Do you feel an immediate spike of intense anxiety or physical restlessness if they don't text you back within a couple of hours? Question 2. Personality shift. Do you find yourself hiding your true opinions, hobbies, or friends just to keep them happy and avoid a conflict? Question 3. Do you feel like your entire mood for the day, whether you're happy or deeply depressed, is completely dependent on how they treated you this morning? Do you spend hours analyzing their social media, tone of voice, punctuation marks to figure out if they still love you? Do you stay in the relationship primarily because of how much time and pain you've already invested, rather than who they actually are today? Next one. Have you pulled away from your close friends, family, or personal goals because this relationship consumes all of your mental and emotional energy?
That's deep.
Have they crossed a major line or treated you poorly, and instead of leaving, you made excuses for them or you blamed yourself? Okay, and we're going to score. Are you ready? 0 to 2 for yes. If your score is 0 to 2, it's a healthy attachment and you have a normal, healthy bond. You care deeply, but you still maintain your own identity and emotional independence. Good for you. Next one, 3 to 4. If you had 3 to 4 yes answers, you're in the danger zone. You're beginning to lose your boundaries. Your nervous system is starting to rely on their validation to feel safe. If you scored 5 to 7 yeses, you're likely locked in a chemical relationship addiction. The hard part is that people usually focus on who they're attached to instead of what they're attached to.
Oh. If you're 5 to 7, get the hell out quick.
The person becomes the distraction from the deeper issue. If someone came into your office and said, I can't get over this person, I would become very curious about a few things. What hurts the most? Not the whole story, the specific pain. So for an example, if they say, I can't believe they left, that's one thing. But if they say, I can't believe I wasn't enough for them to stay, now we're getting somewhere. Or I can't believe they chose someone else. It's a different wound. Or I can't stop thinking about what could have been. Different wound. The pain often reveals the attachment. This is the interesting part. What did this person give you emotionally? Not what they did, not what they represented. So here's some examples. Safety, approval, belonging, validation, hope, protection, purpose. So here's a useful question. Who was I when I was with them? Sometimes the answer is revealing. I felt important. I felt seen. I felt wanted. I felt like I mattered. Now we're getting closer. Is the reaction proportional? This is huge. So if the relationship lasted 3 months, you barely knew the person, the relationship wasn't healthy, yet they're devastated. You're devastated for years. The intensity may not be entirely about the relationship. Chances are it wasn't. Something older may be getting activated. That doesn't mean that the pain isn't real. It just means that there's probably multiple layers of it. So what does this remind you of? This is where your emotional time travel comes in. Not who does this person remind you of, but what does this feeling remind you of?
Soap operas.
Here's some examples. Waiting, rejection, not being chosen, being forgotten, walking on eggshells, never knowing where you stood. Many people suddenly recognize they felt this before.
Yep.
So what are you hoping will happen? This one uncovers a lot. If someone says, I just want closure, maybe, but often if you keep digging, I want them to admit that they hurt me. I want them to understand. I want them to finally choose me. I want them to apologize. Now we're seeing the unresolved need. Next one. What belief comes up when they leave? This may be the deepest question. I want you to finish the sentence. When this person left me, it made me feel blank. Examples. Unlovable, invisible, replaceable, not enough, too much, unwanted. Now ask, when was the first time I felt this way? This is often where the trail leads. So trauma bond. You're chasing the highs and lows of the cycle rather than experiencing a stable, safe relationship. When you think about losing this person, what hurts the most? A through E, ready? A, being rejected. B, being replaced. C, losing the future I imagined. D, being alone. E, losing someone who understood me.
I'd say about D. Being alone, in my own. The rejected thing is you can get rejected about a lot of things. But being alone, then you're all stuck with your own psyche, and you're gonna think, what did I do and what not the person did. And so I'd say D, honestly. Yourself? What do you think?
It depends on the situation. I think it's different for everybody.
Do you think it's the being replaced or rejected?
Well, it depends. It depends on the person, how they felt when they lost that individual, and what hurt them most. So
mine would be either D or E.
It varies. Question 2. If this person called you right now, what would you most want from them? A, an apology. B, validation. C, commitment. D, answers. E, connection. Question 3. Which statement feels most true? A, I need to know why. B, I need them to understand what they did. C, I need them to choose me. D, I need them to come back. E, I need peace. Question 4. What feeling comes up most when you think about them? A, rejection. B, longing. C, anger. D, sadness. E, confusion. Question 5. What are you grieving most? A, the relationship. B, the future I imagined. C, the person I became with them. D, the chance to be chosen. E, the feeling of hope. Question 6. Which sentence hits hardest? A, I wasn't enough. B, I didn't matter. C, I wasn't chosen. D, I wasn't worth staying for. E, I was replaceable. Question 7. Does this feeling seem familiar from another time in your life? A, very much. B, somewhat. C, not sure. D, rarely. E, not at all. Question 8. What would finally make you feel better? A, closure. B, understanding. C, being chosen. D, acceptance. E, moving forward. All right, so the results. If you received mostly A's, then more than likely you have a rejection wound. You may be struggling less with the person and more with what their departure activated. Core belief could possibly be, I'm not enough. So this could include things like shame, self-worth, emotional validation. Mostly B, you could be suffering from the visibility wound. Core belief, I don't matter. People in this category often become attached to finally feeling seen. Mostly C, the chosen wound. Core belief, someone else is more valuable than me. This often appears in absent father wounds, sibling comparisons, infidelity, replacement experiences. If you receive mostly D's, the abandonment wound. Core belief, people leave. So you could be dealing with attachment, object constancy, fear of loss. Mostly E, the hope attachment. So you may be grieving possibility more than reality. Core issue, letting go of the future that you imagined. So let's do, we're at 28 minutes. Let's do another exercise. Complete this sentence. If this person had truly chosen me, it would have proven that I am blank. The answer is often your key. So here's some examples. Lovable, worthy, enough, important, safe, valuable. That single blank can reveal more than an hour of overthinking. Sometimes we're not trying to get a person back. Sometimes we're trying to get a feeling back. And until we identify the feeling, we'll keep mistaking the person for the same solution. So we do not have time to get into next time, our next episode. I told you we're going to unpack a lot of material. We're going to get into the wounds, all the wounds that we just discussed for the tests. So like the rejection wound, the visibility wound, etc., etc. And that'll be on the next episode. Keep your workbook. Thank you so much for joining us again for this podcast and watching Unapologetically Reborn. Do you have anything to conclude before we end?
Nope. Keep on watching.
Thank you very much. I hope you guys have a great week. We'll catch you on the next one, and we'll talk about these wounds.
Yeah.
This is where survival ends and choices begin.
They talked about addiction for years and years. The bottles, the bruises, the anger, the tears, the highs and the lows, the breaking apart, but seldom discussed what it did to a heart. Not the heart of the addict alone in the fight, but the child lying awake almost every night. The child learning silence instead of trust. The child taught survival because they must. The child counting footsteps, reading each tone, trying to predict if the house felt like home. The child growing older but never quite free, still carrying fear no one else could see. Some never touched substances, smoke, or a drink, yet still lived much closer to darkness than think. Because addiction does not simply stay inside one person and fade away. It lingers in children who learn to hide pain, who smile on the outside while drowning in rain, who grow into adults still searching to find why anxiety follows the back of their mind, why love feels unsafe, why peace feels so strange, why their whole nervous system braces for change. And somewhere inside them still echoes the plea, can somebody finally understand me? That question became a book for the children who learned to disappear, who carried survival for year after year, for the adults still asking, why am I this way? While carrying wounds they still hide today. Its pages were written to help people see the child underneath all the anxiety, to show them their struggles did not make them weak, but came from the chaos they never could speak. Because children can survive almost anything true, but surviving too long changes something in you. Wounds ignored do not just fade, they follow every choice we've made. Through anxious hearts and sleepless nights, through endless internal hidden fights. Unapologetically Unseen by Alicia Lynch. On Kindle for free starting May 23.